Morning. My name is Tanja Mächler. I'm co-head of corporate relations at WWF Switzerland, and I'm very much welcoming you to this exchange, to this presentation. Some of you might already have seen our Planet, Our Business, which I really can recommend you to the ones who haven't yet seen it. As you also noticed while watching the screening, our world is changing. And Sir David Attenborough brings it to the point. Nature once determined how we survive. Now we determine how nature survives. In the last 50 years, our world has been transformed by an explosion in global trade, consumption, and human population growth, as well as an enormous move towards urbanization, changing how we live unrecognizably. Yet this has come to huge costs to nature and the stability of the Earth operating systems that sustain us. On this graphic, you see quite a lot of impressive information and might also be a little bit sad. We are at a unique moment in human history, as you can see. WWF's Living Planet report shows that since 1970, global wildlife populations have declined by an average of 60%. We have changed our planet so much. We have brought on a new geological age called the Anthropocene. The impacts on our wildlife, on climate, on rivers, on forests and oceans are profound, as are the consequences for humanity. We therefore need your help to mobilize the private sector to reverse the loss of nature and to ensure global leaders make nature a priority in 2022 and within the next few years. What is the problem? The rapid loss of biodiversity is an unrecognized environmental risk. Climate change further accelerates the extinction of species and leads to rapid changes in ecosystems. This, on the other side, drastically limits the natural carbon sequestration of ecosystems, which in turn exacerbates climate change. This negative spiral has so far been virtually ignored by many of the relevant decision makers. Businesses, governments, and the public need to understand the profound effect they have on the planet. They need to be involved in the solutions. What you can see on this slide is also that since the middle of the 20th century, the dimensions of human activity have exceeded all foreseeable limits. In 2012, humanity consumed the resources and services of 1.6 Earth. See the red line. Imagine that we Swiss need almost the resources of 3 Earth per year. The Americans even use much more, as well as the Australians, for example. The fact is that this means that our generation is living on thick, or in economic terms, we live on our capital and not on our interests. And you can also imagine that we know that the capital will eventually be used up. This is the evolving risk landscapes of the World Economic Forum. I mean, you really do not have to read what's written on it, but you might see a huge shift from blue to green. The blue are the economic risks versus the green, which are the environmental risks. And one can say that for the first time in 2020, environmental concerns dominated top long-term risks by likelihood among members of the World Economic Forum. They rate biodiversity loss, for example, as the second most impactful and third most likely risk for the next decade. And I'm pretty sure it will stay green within the next few years. What are the consequences? You might have, or some of you might have seen it in the screening, Our Planet, Our Business. There are very, very big consequences on the business, on companies. I would like to highlight the critical nature of biodiversity and the interdependencies between nature, climate change, the economy and health security. Climate diversity is essential for the screening and development of new drugs. Roughly 70% of all cancer drugs have a natural origin. With the loss of biological diversity, the potential to develop new drugs is dramatically shrinking. Artificial pollination would lead to additional costs of more than 150 billion euros. And production risks for the sector are rising due to climate change and the massive degradation of nature. Food production heavily depends on fertile soils, water availability, and animal pollination, among others. Imagine 71 out of the 100 most commonly used crops are pollinated by bees and other pollination animals. These 100 crops deliver around 90% of our nutrition. Forest monocultures are more prone to pest outbreaks, insect invasions, water stress due to climate change, wildfires, and other stress factors, compared to forests with a diversity of trees and species. Biodiversity loss reduces the possibility of searching for special genetic features, like resistance to heat stress or adaptation to cooler temperatures. Fact is that it is obvious that we must take more care of our planet. How can we build a sustainable future? Key calls to action. I would really like to show you some key calls to businesses which WWF worldwide announces to the economy. Every business needs to follow the 5 principles to restore nature and help build a stable future for our planet. First of all, successful businesses will embrace the clean technologies that now exist to replace fossil fuels. Sustainable businesses will help us reduce our impact on land, employing new technologies to produce as much as possible from a little as possible, growing crops on already deforested land, logging and managing forests selectively. Future businesses will respect the ocean as a resource that belongs to us all, only taking what it can naturally replace. So therefore, for example, when you go to the retail sector, please check out if the company, the retailer, is offering sustainable seafood. You might also see it on the labels on it, or maybe also when you see if some of the retailers work together with WWF, checking the fish database and checking if the seafood is sourced sustainability. Next generation businesses will design their product lines to fit within circular economies. And one of the most damaging elements of today's society is the quest for perpetual growth at all costs. A reinvented model of business as usual will allow us to thrive and grow sustainably, adapting within the finite world around us. As Robert Watson, former chair of the IPBS, said, the future of humanity depends on action now. If we do not act, our children and all future generations will never forgive us. We all need a new deal for nature, and this is also for what WWF is fighting for. Thank you very much.